Welcome to the Naturelle VBAC podcast. You're listening to episode number 4. Becoming pregnant after a previous caesarean section is no joke, and it's not as easy as it sounds. The challenges you may go through can really throw you far away from having a VBAC. But I hope these podcasts will help you understand VBAC is safe for the majority of women.
Today, we are coming face to face with what all women attempting a VBAC fear. My amazing, inspirational guest today shares her Uterine Rupture story with us. And it's a story that touches deep in my soul. And I'm sure when you listen to it, you'll understand why.
Hello, my name is Chanel Campbell, the founder and owner of the Naturelle VBAC and the VBAC Summit. And today we have an amazing lady who's going to speak to us about a uterine rupture story. She's also going to talk to us about her, her births and how she felt during those births. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Deidre Ortega. I'm from the United States, from Salt Lake City, Utah. And I have 3 kids. My most recent was born now in August. So he's almost 5 months old now.
Wow. And how many caesareans have you had, or have you had any vaginal births?
I have not. All 3 of them have been cesarean. My first one was scheduled for a low-lying placenta. It was 1.5 centimeters away, so there was no chance in even trying there. And then my second one, we attempted a VBAC, and that one ended in an emergency cesarean. And then now my third, we attempted another VBAC, and again ended up in a very emergent cesarean that time.
Okay, can you walk me through your second experience and tell me how you got to this emergency cesarean? So you've gotten yourself into labor, or did you not go into labor?
Yes, I did. So I was 40 weeks in 5 days. I went into labor. Well, I hadn't been feeling good. I had actually planned a home birth this time because my experience with my first birth was very just traumatic. The doctor was mean. She was belittling it. So I was at that point I don't want anything to do with physicians or hospitals. I want to go a different route. So I found a home birth midwife, and everything was great the entire pregnancy, no issues. I end up in labor at 40 weeks in 5 days, and finally my water breaks in the middle of the night because I had actually gotten in the bath. So I get up and I just feel this gush come out of me, and I'm like, well, I was just in the bath. So I was kind of confused, like, was this part of the bath experience? I'm like, what's happening, because I never had a labor with my first. So I went and laid down, and things definitely picked up. They were real more intense. They go through the rest of the night like that. And about, 6 o'clock in the morning, I call my midwife. She heads over because she didn't have anybody to see that day. So she came to check on me. At that point, things just kind of stalled out. We checked, and sure enough, my water did break. So we just watched it for 2 days. Or almost 2 days. We were just laboring, and things just were not progressing, I guess, ideally. And so we ended up deciding that after it was 30 hours at home that we were going to transfer, because she had noticed that there was meconium it had happened. So we decide, let's go to the hospital. Maybe just a little bit of Pitocin will help just get things where they need to go. I was 6 centimeters, 100% effaced. We just couldn't keep the contractions consistent. So at that point, when we got to the hospital, I just started having really, really bad anxiety because of my previous experience. I was just really uneasy. And so, I we started the process, and we were there. We checked in at 11 in the morning and just labored all day with the Pitocin. Finally, I was like, I couldn't handle any more, of the natural labor. So I decided to get an epidural at that point, just so I could relax, because, it'd been so long already, and it was time. Like, I just felt I was just tired. My body was just tired. So we got the epidural, and I finally was able to relax. A couple hours later, they come back. You're ready to push. You're 100%. You're 10 centimeters. Let's push. But the baby was still pretty high. I think there was one station plus one, maybe. I think I ended up getting down to a 0 station. And we pushed and pushed and pushed for a while. I think at least 2 hours of pushing. And then finally, he just kept decelling really bad, and they couldn't keep him back up. So every contraction was just putting him, he couldn't recover from them. So at that point, we just said, the physician on call did say, if I want to try longer, we can, but she doesn't advise it just because of where it was going. So I was just done, I guess, at that point as well. So I just said, let's just do it. I cried the whole way back. I mean, they were great. I mean, as far as their job, for me emotionally, it was hard just because I worked so hard for that. Okay, hold on. I'm getting a little emotional.
I don't want to switch sponsors.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go on side, please. Anyway, so, everything went fine. The healing, physically I healed okay. Mentally, I was still having a really hard time. And we just were like, well, we'll try again, eventually when the time is right. So we ended up getting pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage. And at that point, I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to try this anymore. Like, I couldn't birth my other kids my ideal way. And, the miscarriage had taken a lot out of me, because I had one before that as well. Before my first child, I had a miscarriage, then my daughter, then my son, then another miscarriage. So I was just done with trying anymore. And last year for New Year's, I decided to have some wine, and it made me really, really sick. And I was like, this isn't normal. I went and checked, and sure enough, I was already 9 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And because I never had a period from the time that I had the miscarriage in August of 2018 to 2019 in January, that when I found out, I never, had a cycle or anything. So I didn't know. And, so again, right once I knew I was pregnant, my mind was to VBAC, and, I did everything right. I ate great. I was actually a lot more active this time than my other two. I went to the chiropractor all the time, prenatal massage. I mean, took, the red raspberry leaf. I did the evening primrose oil. I mean, I just did everything you're supposed to do, And towards the end of my pregnancy, we started noticing the higher blood pressures and protein in my urine. So at 39 weeks and 3 days, we went in for an appointment, and it was just too high, and it was just something that had been continuing, and it was just getting worse. And so my doctor was like, you have preeclampsia, and, we need to induce you. We're still on track for VBAC, and he's, my provider, as far as anybody who's going for VBAC, is your provider is just your number one, like, has to be, like, still supportive, and he was. So, he did bring down the risks of it, and in my mind, I didn't think it's not going to happen. This is the chance we're getting. We're going to get this chance. And
okay, take your time if you need it. It's fine. It's okay. I fully understand.
So you know, at that point I started getting anxious because I don't, you know, my experience with the Pitocin last time, it's so much different than normal labor. You know what I mean? I had done it for 2 days, and once that Pitocin hit me, it was a lot, you know. And medically they say it's the same thing. I don't feel that, you know what I mean? This is something that's just, it's coming at you like a train, you know. And so I started getting really nervous about that. And I had called in my doula because I had hired a doula as well. And I, you know, talked to her and I was like, you know, this is what's going to happen. You know, we got to go in today. So I think I asked him to give me, you know, some time because I need to situate my household first and stuff and the kids and whatnot. So we went in, we ended up getting to the hospital and we took it really, you know, slow. I met with the doctor before we did anything. You know, I was like, we're not starting any medication. Because I don't know what the plan is. And I want to be informed of the plan before they do anything to me, you know. And I took in my beautiful birth plan that I typed up and, you know, all my wishes. And I mean, they were very willing to accept it all. And previously I've worked in labor and delivery at the hospital. And I've seen how a lot of times that, you know, you bring in a birth plan, it's like, you're that mom, you know? So I was kind of iffy when we went, you know, but they were all actually really, really great about it. Although nothing really went to plan. But, you know, we got, I guess, the best we could for given the circumstances. So anyway, we broke my water. I had already, when I went in, I was already, I think, 3 centimeters dilated and 70% effaced. He was at a 0 station, and they started a low dose of Pitocin, and we just walked around, you know, because that was another big thing that for my second birth, I was not allowed to leave the bed. Once I got there, I had to stay in bed the entire time. So that, I think, hindered a lot of what could have happened with my second birth by keeping him, I mean, just laying down, you know, you're fighting against gravity. Again, when I pushed with my second one as well, because I did get to pushing, I was on my back. And so this time I was like, I want to, you know, do it different. So we finally, you know, it was getting to be pretty tough, probably 8 hours in. It was, you know, the contractions were really coming in hard. You know, the Pitocin was a little higher and stuff, and I wasn't able to focus and stuff. So I ended up getting an epidural, and, you know, things progressed pretty quickly after that. After I was able to relax, I was feeling okay, and things went really fast. Within a couple hours, I was complete, ready to push. They get there, and I tell the nurse, you know, I don't want to push on my back. Well, let's just try it this way. And I said, okay, but if it don't work, I don't want to be on my back. You know, I'm already anxious about it. I don't want to be on my back. And so we tried pushing for a little bit. And I mean, when you're in labor land, I don't even know how long we were honestly there, because I was just in that zone. And I remember pushing, and she's like, well, he's still pretty high up, so we'll give it a little bit. And then we're going to call your doctor in because, you know, being a VBAC or whatever, I'm considered higher risk. So they were calling him in, and they tried having me push again. And I mean, I just felt like just this, I don't know, like, I mean, literally your body exploding from inside out. And at that point, I knew something was wrong.
It's okay, take your time. It's okay.
And then he started deselling on me. And so there was just people everywhere at that point, you know, and they're turning me, flipping me around. Because, you know, I had an epidural, so I couldn't move. And
looking around like, you know, what's going on. And so I told my doula, I felt, you know, I vocalized it, and I'm like, something bad, it's bad, you know. And I just remember telling him, I can't breathe, I need to sit up. And she's like, we can't. And I said, I need to sit up, I can't breathe, I'm hurting. I mean, I have an epidural, I shouldn't feel anything. And, you know, I was like, just put me to sleep. If we have to go to the ER, I want to be asleep. She's like, no, you could stay awake for the birth. I said, I don't want to, you know, because we're taking you back, you know. And I'm like, I don't want to be asleep, you know, because I've had traumatic experiences. I mean, I don't want to be awake. I've had traumatic experiences before. And, you know, so it was just like, it was a lot, you know, like, it was so much, because I knew it wasn't good, you know, and they were already telling me that he was decelling, you know, too bad. And
it's okay, it's absolutely fine. I want you to cry, and I want you to lay it out and keep telling your story, because this is part of your healing, you know. I'm tearing up as well, because obviously I've had those 2 cesareans as well, and I actually understand what you're going through right now. I really, really do, you know. So just take your time, and when you're ready to continue on with your story, we're all listening.
Yeah. So I remember they sat me up, and I remember them telling my husband to put on the bunny suit, you know, for the OR, and the anesthesiologist came in, and I mean, I just kept telling him, please, whatever you do, just put me to sleep. I don't want to be awake, because I know it's not good, you know, and I don't want to be awake, you know. I'm scared, and they kept telling me, no, we'll keep you awake. And, you know, I was adamant. I was like, I want to be asleep. We got to the OR, and I mean, it's just a fog. And I remember just like being in and out, because I think they had already given me some medicine, unless it was just my body just kind of a fight or flight at that point, you know, because I was so scared. I mean, what it was, I don't know, you know, but I just remember being in a fog and kind of like black in and out. And I remember my doctor asking if I could feel him touch or doing the pinching or anything, I don't know. And after that, I was out. I don't remember anything after that. But my husband says, like, they had him out. Even my doctor said they had the baby out within 1 minute. I mean, they had to get him out because things were looking bad for him. He said once he started, after he got to the muscle layer, he could see the bulging. So he knew at that point that I had ruptured, because a lot of times, you know, you can have some signs and all that, but you don't truly rupture, you know, and that's what I kind of thought it was, you know, because I didn't want to believe, like, can it really happen, you know, or, you know, you're taught to believe with any VBAC that you'll die if you rupture, you know, that's that, you know. And so when I felt that was my, I think, mindset, like, we're dying, you know, this is it, you know. How selfish was I to try this, because I didn't want to put other risks by a surgery that I didn't need. But then, you know, the worst thing happened to us during this.
And I fully understand.
And, you know, so when I woke up finally, because my husband he didn't even make it into the OR, because by the time, you know, he got dressed and actually down into there, I mean, the baby was already born and stuff. And he had a hard time. From what I was told, he had Apgars of 4s initially, so he actually only needed in the NICU, and that was it. And I mean, he bounced back wonderfully. Like, you would have never guessed that his time in there was so short. And he does great now. But, you know, when I finally woke up, you know, I'm in this room and I'm like, where's, you know, what happened? Where's my baby? Because it felt like when you're in labor, and as you know, like, you're in labor land, like, things around you are a fog. You kind of remember things, you kind of don't. You're just in this zone. And so when I woke up, I'm like, where am I at? Like, where's the baby? What happened? Like, was this real? What I kind of felt like I dreamt about, I was wondering, like, is this real? I'm like, where's the baby? Because I knew at that point I had ruptured. You know, they didn't tell me, but I knew, you know, with what I felt and how fast things went. And the baby wasn't in the room at the time because he was still at the nursery and stuff. So, you know, my first thing was, where's my baby? Is he okay? And actually, I'm like, we didn't find out the sex. So I was like, where's the baby? Is the baby okay? Because I didn't even know what we had, because we waited till birth to find out the gender. And my husband says, yes, I'll let him know you're awake and see if you can see him. And we had a little boy, so, you know, he went and got him. And, you know, after that, you know, the doctor came in and talked to me and said, you know, you had a full rupture. And they were able to save my uterus. But, you know, if I want more kids later, I'm going to need a C-section earlier, you know, but he doesn't advise it because of how big I did rupture and how they had to sew back my uterus into like pieces, you know. So I was like whoa, wait, what? Give me a couple of days to talk to me even about this.
Yeah,
because like, I'm all over, you know. You just had a baby. I'm waking up from a birth that I missed, you know. I didn't get to be in and I worked so hard for, you know, and stuff. So the baby comes in and, you know, everything's great. Hospital stay, you know, it was great. And, you know, again, there I am. I'm already emotional because I know the recovery part of this sucks. I don't, you know, again, that's another reason why you want to be back, because you didn't just have a major surgery to your body, you know. And so, you know, I was again hormonal and upset and stuff. The doctor comes in a couple of days later and to talk to me about it, and I'm just, you know, emotional. I'm having a hard time, like, once I really get the facts of what just happened, you know. And the thing is, I didn't rupture along my scar. I ruptured on the side of my uterus. So, I mean, it wasn't even, you know, where they said, you know, like, where normally you should rupture, I ruptured on the side instead of in the front, you know. And I mean, hearing it was hard, you know. And, you know, everybody was, you know, at least you had help, you know, at least you guys are okay. And I get that. I am not selfish, but I feel like, what could I have done better? You know, should I have demanded not to lay on my back? Like, did that put too much pressure and trying to push the wrong way? Or you know what I mean? Like, I constantly battle with myself. What could I have done different? You know, in those moments leading up to, or even the whole pregnancy, like, I get to pushing with these kids, well, the two boys, and, you know, things go wrong, you know. And so right now, you know, I'm still having a hard time with that, you know. And after the birth and the hospital stay, we get home, and I started developing, you know, fevers. And of course, that's the first thing they say: watch for fevers, chills, body aches. I'm starting to get these super high 104, 105 degree fevers. Like, what's going on? I ended up going to the hospital. Well, I called my doctor. I go to the hospital, and, you know, they want me to get checked. And then they tell me I have endometriosis, an infection in my uterus, most likely from the surgery, because he's explaining to me that you have, I don't know, like a 5% chance of a normal vaginal birth. You can get an infection after. That ups to about 10 to 15% after a C-section because of a surgery. A rupture increases that by 50%. You know, most likely this is what's going to happen. I developed this infection. I go home on medications. I finish this medications. I'm still getting these fevers. I'm still getting, you know, I'm just having a lot of issues. I'm in so much pain. Is this normal? And I wasn't sure. I dismissed a lot of it because I figured this rupture took a really big toll on my body. Maybe this is why this is happening. Weeks and weeks, 13 weeks passed by with constant infections, doctor's appointments, hospitalizations, of torture. And I think now I'm starting my mental healing process because I was so focused on all this, you know what I mean? I have a new baby and I have my 2 older kids and I'm dealing with these issues. Well, what happened is I ended up with a pocket in my uterus and it had just infection in it that just developed and didn't go away. I was laying here one day and I just start having I thought it was a period and it was just, I felt this gushing coming out of me. Go to the restroom and it's like yellow green stuff and I'm like, what is this? Like I've been sick. What could this stuff be? So I go to the hospital, do another CAT scan, and the pocket is gone. So they figured, this is what finally happened. This was stuck, inside of me forever. And so, like I said, now that physically we're better, I can't say even better, because I'm getting injections along my incisions in areas down there because just of what's happened. I've had so much pain and it feels like somebody just hit me with a car, and so that helps. We're trying to do some manual manipulation of the muscles and nerves in there to try to help the pain because, they give you medications for that, but I'm too scared to take medications just because of my mental health right now. I don't think it's best for anybody. I just don't want to create more problems, and like I said, so now I'm working more on my mental health and trying to get past it or, get in a better headspace about it, because it's really hard to, deal with, the thing is I still believe in VBAC. My doctor was asking me a few weeks back when we were there, how do you feel about VBAC now that you've had a rupture? And I'm like, honestly, if I could, I would do it again. I would try again, honestly, he's like, well, I don't advise you because now your chances are more of 10-15% chance of another rupture, but that's up to you. I wouldn't advise it. And I don't know how many doctors or anybody who would support that, but, I'm just saying, my husband ended up getting a vasectomy anyway, but, and so it's hard, because I'm like that was it. I feel like that was 3 strikes I'm out, and I don't get that opportunity. I feel like, I was gutted like a fish to have my kids taken out of me. I didn't get, granted, yes, I did go through labor twice and stuff, but I want that experience. I sometimes feel less than, and it's hard. It's people don't realize, I've been told why would you want, your baby to come out of your vagina? It's, you don't have to worry about stretching and I don't like the cosmetics of that. I don't know. It's just so hard to explain, and I just want that experience. I feel it's just hard. It's hard. You feel robbed of it. You feel was I selfish for it? Because I've had a lot of people telling me, how selfish it was of me to try to be back because of the worst of the worst. And I'm here no, I'll prove you wrong, and then look what happened, it's so you kind of feel, I don't know, I just feel down about it, but, I'm trying to work on it.
No, I understand. And firstly, the first thing I want to say to you is that I want you to understand that, you haven't been selfish, not even in the slightest. You have been courageous. You've been, strong. To have to even try for a VBAC after a caesarean and a traumatic birth experience, even if it's been a vaginal birth, but you had a traumatic birth experience, to try for another birth, like to get a whole pregnancy going again, and then to try for something that everybody or nearly everybody is against, that shows how strong and how mighty you are. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to feel bad about that, because that was a decision that you made based upon research, and research says that only a small percentage of women may have a rupture, and that majority of the women will end up having a successful vaginal birth. Now, however, that wasn't the case for your situation. Was it because they broke your waters early? Was it because you was laying on your back? We'll never know. But what I can say is that these things, laying on your back, having your waters broken, these are all things that, slow down labour. And having your waters broken is classed as an induction as well. They've tried to quickly start labour. And, having the pitocin, the synthetic hormones and stuff, that is also a way of, to kick-starting labour. And it's not a natural way of doing so. So you're forcing the body to do something that it's not willing to do or not ready to do yet. Yes. Maybe had you waited a little bit longer, maybe you would have gone into labour naturally and then things would have progressed well. Or maybe not. Maybe this has just been written for you, that you was going to have a uterine rupture, and actually your story is going to empower so many people. You have certain people, and I feel this energy from you, that have certain people who go through these really rough situations, like they go through the hardships of life, and then they come out of it being extremely strong and, powerful, and that's what they champion. They champion that cause that they just went through, and I feel that that's you. I mean, I know you spoke about, you're trying to work on your mental health right now, and having a uterine rupture is massive. That's why I was tearing up when you were speaking about it, because as a woman who's gone through 2 caesareans, I fully understand where you're coming from when you made that decision to have a VBAC. And then I fully understand also where you're coming from when you was trying to, plan for that VBAC. And at the point where you're saying, oh my gosh, something is actually going wrong. Because I've had a VBAC where things have gone completely wrong. And I think my body was actually starting to rupture with my 4th birth. I think that because I started to feel a burning sensation around my scar, and I started to feel different things. And I started to bleed a lot, but then they told me that everything was fine. But I felt like I wasn't okay. I felt different. I felt tingling sensations around my scar. I felt just funny, and my intuition feeling was like, oh my God. But then I was too proud to say, you know what, this is actually happening to me. You know what I'm saying? Until the last minute when I was like, oh my God, like something is really happening. Like I've been pushing for how many hours now? And I know when you was pushing, you was looking at the clock as well, thinking, oh my God, like 1 hour's gone past, 2 hours gone past, and you're cognitive of every sound, every movement, everything that's going on. So I fully understand where you're coming from to that point there, and obviously then to have a caesarean again, So I understand the uterine rupture thing is just one of the biggest traumas that any woman can ever face, because again, if you plan for a birth, and it doesn't end up that way, and it goes completely left, and it goes to the point of a uterine rupture, that is something that you're going to hold in your chest. That's something that's going to really traumatize you, And I mean, when did you give birth?
What was that?
When was your uterine rupture?
In August.
August is gone. So that's just a few months ago. You have to take time to heal. And I know that people speak, especially on social media, people talk about healing. A lot of people don't get it. They don't understand what healing is. Healing is crying. That's what I'm saying to you. Like, you have to cry as well. There's going to be times when you're going to be, maybe looking after the children, and one day you may just break down, and embrace the breaking down, because that is your healing process. That's you saying, you know what? I'm at rock bottom right now. I've gone through this situation, and now I'm going to, I have to let it out my system. The way I'm going to let this out is by crying, is by, healing myself, or doing things to make myself contextualize what I've just gone through, because it's massive. And I know probably after you had a uterine rupture, you probably didn't, even process it properly, because you've got this baby crying, you've got you need to care for as well, because we're cognitive that they need support. We're cognitive that they've just gone through it with us, even though it's us that's gone through it, but they've also been there by our sides going through it. And men textualize things a lot different from how we do, So I fully understand how you must be feeling. Hey! yeah, I fully understand, how you must be feeling, Just please don't beat yourself up. Like, just take your time. If you need to if you call me anytime, email me, call, I'll give you my phone number, whatever you need, I'm at your service, because you know what? You've gone through something really, really major, and I just want you to understand that this is your time now, your time to heal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Look, I'm going to bring you in here.
Oh.
Say hi real quick.
Hey.
Hey. So this is our little baby. His name's Akai.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm a life and a health coach and an NLP practitioner as well, master NLP practitioner. One thing I want to tell you is you have to take time for things. The society that we live in, and in this decade, like a lot of people, they just try to do things. You go to the hospital and your whole situation is just like, it's just not even been recognized. They don't understand that you've just gone through something. It's just get you in and get you out. And then whatever comes in the middle of it is just for you to deal with, And I just want you to understand, just take your time. Take time with your baby. Spend time on your mental health. Like, you can take yourself to try and help you get strong, and look at your beautiful kids. You've got beautiful children, They are your warriors. They are.
Yes. I did, and I mean, looking back, it was more, I mean, my doctor was great. He was, he referred me, he gave me his personal cell phone too, and it was like, call, if you need anything. But again, for them, it's so new as well that, he's only had 3 cases in the many years that he's practiced, so it's just something that's not that common. When it does, it's big, it's huge, and they have he gave me a postpartum, like they have a counseling type service there through the clinic and hospital. I've just not done it yet. I just, baby steps for me right now, and just see kind of, because again, rupture is so rare that it's not, a lot of people don't understand it, again, unless, the fears, especially for somebody who's VBACing, the what ifs and all the bad stuff that can drain you and consume you when just wanting to try, people don't understand, that you do think of this kind of stuff, that you don't just go into VBAC and think like, I'm just going to do this today. You look it up, you research, and it takes a lot of time and stuff. So, I mean, I'm just not ready for that yet, because a lot of times I have a really hard time, because a lot of people and at the clinic and the hospital and people that I've talked to, I get a lot of the, well, at least you have a healthy baby in your life. And it drives me crazy, because I'm not healthy if I'm not mentally strong right now. I'm not okay. I'm struggling with postpartum depression, and anybody who's been through it knows it's an ugly thing, and it's more than just, well, at least you're alive. Like you don't always know the thoughts that go through my head, or, how hard it is, what the toll on my body has taken just from the surgery alone, let alone the rupture, that added a whole other thing, not including the infections that I've dealt with, for how many months, it's been a lot, and so I hear that a lot from, I've seen different doctors too, and that's a lot of things. Well, back in the day, we didn't have this kind of technology. You would have just died. I understand that, but I'm not, this is something I worked so hard for. I prepared mentally for, I prepared for the good. I didn't prepare for the bad, and I wanted to try to have that positive, you think positive things will happen. And, so I didn't think about the bad stuff. try to do everything right, that you're supposed to do. And so when people are ignorant enough to just say that, which, again, I understand that. And I am very grateful for medicine, modern medicine, that is here to help when something bad like that happens. I get that. But, it's still a traumatic experience. I mean, it was great, having a supportive provider and them helping me after, but, that's not all there is. It's still more after that. You don't just have a baby and, let's go home and it's a happy day. I mean, even like you said, even in an uncomplicated birth, there could still be trauma. There could still be postpartum depression, that you got to deal with. And so I have not yet reached out to the services that they have, but I plan to eventually. I think I just need to work a little bit more on me first, and how I can.
I fully agree.
Yeah.